I can't think of anyone better to take over next than my good friend and my podcasting co-host for any Honest Designers show listeners out there, Mr. Ian Barnard. How are you doing, Ian?
I'm very good, Tom. Always good to see your face. I get the pleasure of it every week. So
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Where are you joining us from, for anyone that doesn't know?
So I'm joining you from the UK, just sort of not south, or somewhere between London and the coast where Brighton is. I'm somewhere in a little village that no one really knows where it is. But yeah, in a little village, in my little studio at the end of the garden. So,
a studio that you built yourself, which I still love.
A friend built it and I helped him. That's more
more accurate.
Yeah, I don't want to give myself any credit for the build.
Today, we're not only going to get a really cool session for all the lettering enthusiasts out there, but we're also going to get the grand reveal of Ian's latest pack, which has been kind of a year and a half to 2 years in the making and conceptual phase. And so I'm so thrilled to unveil it today. We've been hyping up the suspense all day. Everyone's like, Ian's got a new pack. What's it going to be? Because you always drop just fantastic resources that save people a ton of time. So we're going to be showing that off today as well. Stay tuned for that. But Ian, what are you going to be teaching today for the session?
So today I'm going to be going through a piece. I call it freestyle lettering. I don't know if it's a thing or I just made that word up.
Are you going to rap throughout the session? Is that what
you want me to?
Yeah, we could do.
You do the rapping. I'll do the lettering.
No one wants to see that.
But what it is over the past sort of year and a half, I've really enjoyed doing sort of like trying to add little illustrative elements into my work and just sort of combining different styles, because I know people struggle with combining different styles. And so this is sort of a pack I've been working on for ages. I was sort of like halfway through it for like about 6 months. And I just like couldn't really finish it off. And it was just sort of tweaking stuff. And when new features in Procreate came out that made sort of different effects with different brushes helped. And also was one of my murals I did based on this pack as well, with this sort of different styles. It's sort of quite loose. It's sort of quite fun, playful. That's sort of words I use for it. Involves a lot of flags and a lot of paper airplanes as well. But I'll show you that in a minute.
Yeah, it's very you. We were chatting about this just before going live, and I think the best way of summing it up is it's very much an all-in-one pack where it can help you with lettering, but also supportive illustrations, textures. It kind of has everything cohesively in one epic pack. So, as I say, really excited to show it off. But Ian, do you want to jump in and share your screen, please? And yes. I know you're going to be showing quite how much you can do in all the different versatile lettering styles that you're known for with your enormously big Instagram following. People are going to learn how to kind of mimic some of these styles that you're famous for.
Yeah, so this is not the finished piece, just in case you thought you turned up and like, oh, this is looking a bit ropey. So yeah, like Sir Tom said, the pack hopefully will include enough resources in it you can do sort of start to finish piece. So one of the things is the fact that you start off with I've got a pencil sketch brush there to draw your rough layout, or I always start with a pencil paper and then do a rough sketch in Procreate, just because it's like your blueprint to how the finished thing is going to roughly look. And then it's about not spending too much time on this and just getting the idea down. And then once you're happy with that, then you can do all the details on top of it. So here's my rough sketch. I usually use blue because I go over the top of it in black when I'm using the brushes. So I use blue, and I normally, once I've done it, I sort of reduce the opacity a bit so I can see it, but not too much. So what I'm going to do in this session is going to go and draw the whole of this thing. I have done it before, so this is not me just doing it off my cuff and like doing a whole thing out of just my head. I have done this before, so I'm just going to go through the process of doing all the different elements, which brushes I'm using, and the effects I'm applying to each of them, and we'll go through some of the different things within Procreate, like clipping masks, reference, and alpha lock, which is quite the things I use the most, and how to use them using this pack, and how to use them just in general. Well, something I haven't mentioned is I've made a user manual, which includes some tutorials, example alphabets you can use as reference, a few guides how to use the brushes, so that you're not just left with a set of brushes and you don't know what to do. You know, obviously this may help a bit, but having a source there, and you know, you quickly can flick through it and get to grips with what the brushes do, really. So yeah, let's get into it. So we're going to start from the top down. So the first brush I'm going to use is one called Slipstream. There's two sets of 3 brushes. There's like a mono one, which is in a solid outline, and then a 3D version of it. For this cloud, it's going to be a sort of cloud where the B is. You can use this brush, which is normally for lettering, so you know, for doing stuff like that. But what you can do is, if you don't let your pen leave the screen, you can just then make like a cloud shape quickly like that with the brush.
So cool.
So you know, sort of outlined ready. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create another layer below that cloud layer, because I want to fill it with white. So it's slightly grey in the background. I want to fill it with white. So what this is using a technique called reference. So if you click on the outline layer and select reference, third from the bottom there, and then click on the one below it, all the information from the layer at the top is going to be transferred to the layer below. So now if I select white and drag that onto that shape, it's not gone all over the page because it's taking reference from the one above. So that's a really helpful tool. So you can I can, you know, if I needed to like move that around or make it bigger or something, I'm not restricted to filling that object. So that's really, and that's one of the keys to filling stuff with this pack, is the reference. So you turn that on, and you need to turn it off again, because obviously any other layer will be referenced to that layer again. So you just want to use it and then turn it off again.
Do you mind just showing one more time for? Because I know we got a lot of beginners.
Okay, so I've created 2 layers. I've got the layer which I've done that outline, which is layer at the top there, and then the layer below is going to be where my color goes. So I'm going to click on the thumbnail, select reference, select back on the layer below, and now I can just drag and drop my color, and it will fill that object like it was on the same layer.
Very cool.
Does that make sense? It's quite it's quite a thing to get a head around, but if you can, so you're left with like just 2 layers there, and you know, I can, if it was a bigger object, I can just keep on and it will fill that object. But now I've done that, I just want to turn that back off again. So then I'm just going to create another layer, and then I'm going to use a brush called Broken Arrow, which is like a scripty font, slightly textured scripty font. Get a black. It also comes with a color palette. So this top one up here, it comes in shades of like black to white with gray in between, and then you have 4 colors for 4 shades of every color of these. So you've got like your highlights, your main color, your midtones, and then your lowlights. So yeah, just for this, I'm going to select black and just do some capital letters of B. And then I'm just going to give it a bit of shading around. So I'm going to give it some shading on the white, and I want to keep it within the white. So there's a thing that people keep asking, which is what's the difference between clipping masks and alpha lock? So alpha lock, if I click on that thumbnail and click alpha lock, restricts everything to the object that's on that layer. So I'm going to select a light blue and this one called Milky Way, just to give it some shading like that. And as you can see, I can't draw on any other of the layer because it's locked into just that object. So that's one way of refining it to just that part of the object. But if I wanted to move that blue bit around or lighten it or change its color, I can't now because it's sort of permanent. But if I turn off alpha lock, if I create another layer above it, click on it and click clipping mask, now that layer is restricted to all the object that's below it. So now if I go and color on it, it does the same thing, but it's not permanent. So now I can turn that off, turn it back on again. I can do a bit more. I can erase without erasing the layer below. Does that make sense to you?
I think so.
So the difference really is alpha lock is more permanent because you're doing it actually on the object itself, whereas clipping mask is a separate layer, so it's not permanent. That's the difference. But the problem comes when you're getting short on layers. Sometimes you just like, I would just do alpha lock if I'm running out of layers. So, you know, and like now we're doing this because I'm doing a piece that's got a lot of layers in it, and I haven't got the time to sort of go between different documents. I'm going to now sort of bring all those objects together by squeezing those layers together and turning it into one object now. I don't recommend doing that if you can do, because you might want to go back and edit a bit of things. But I want to give this a shadow now. So the quickest way of giving it a shadow is duplicating it. So swipe it to the left, click duplicate, select on the one below, and now click on it, click alpha lock. So it's just restricted to the object itself. Select black, and then I click on it again and go fill layer. So instead of filling the whole layer, it just fills the object. Turn the alpha lock back off again. And now I can move that object down. That's my shadow, but I want it very light. So I click on this N icon on the side of the layer, bring it all the way down. I normally rest it around where it says opacity. So like by the Y. And then I scroll up to multiply. So multiply gets rid of any white or lighter areas. So if you're going, so I'm going to be going with this flag in a minute, which has multiple colors in it. And so I want it to just show, just sort of be the same consistency over the whole of the thing below it. So that's my shadow for that. And that's going to be the same throughout the thing. So I'll do that again in a minute. So now I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to draw a flag now. So I know then we get onto that lettering as well. So for this one, I'm going to use, so there's two sets of 3 brushes, which are got Sloppy Joe here, which is sort of smooth with a little bit of texture. And then you've got Roughneck, which is really rough. And they come in 3 sort of flavors. They have like a monoline version for doing the outlines. You have like a tapered version for doing sort of maybe smoothing off edges or coloring it in. And then the detailed version for doing stuff like adding sort of bits of detail to, I don't know, the edges, or if you like little cut-in bits and stuff like that. So, because the rest is going to be quite smooth on this one, I'm going to go for sort of a Sloppy Joe one and black. And then I'm just going to roughly draw a like wavy triangle shape.
I actually really love how in recent years you've started exploring more illustration.
Yeah, so
and kind of fine art as well. And you got talent for it. I know when you started it, you used to say to us on the podcast, "Oh, you're not really an artist," and then we'd see your work and be like, "I think you are actually, mate."
I think it just comes down to doing more practice. So yeah, doing this is like a one on a pole. So the pole's going to be grey. So I'm just going to do the black bits here, and just I like rounding off the corners as well, trying to take away any of the sharp edges. So it just all softens it up. And then I like stuff to be slightly eroded. I don't know why. Matches my sort of loose, not perfect lettering skills. And sort of do like sort of cut-ins. I'm using the sort of detailed brush to do some sort of cutting bits, and I do sort of like bits where it looks like it's sort of parts of the flag are falling off. It just, I don't know, it just adds a little bit of imperfections to it.
No, I like it. It adds a lot, actually.
So that's my black area done. So this is the same sort of thing. What I want to do is create a new layer below it, tap on the thumbnail of the outline and select reference. And then what I can do is select my primary color just drag and drop that on there. It just makes it easier. Otherwise, you have to go around the outside. You can still do that if you want to go around the outside and then fill it, but this just saves a bit of time. And then what I want to do is I'm going to create a new layer to do the post. And I'm just going to get the mono one for that as well. I'm just doing a circle up there. When it starts, it always looks a bit like real basic, but once you add a little bit of shade in it, it just makes it look a bit better. So I'm going to select a darker tone of the grey, just to save time. I'm going to alpha lock this by, you can use 2 fingers and swipe it to the right to automatically do that.
It's a good shortcut.
But it's hard to remember all these shortcuts. That's the thing. So I'll try and do it the long way. And then I'm just going to... So most of the time I find that the light comes from the sort of top right. So my shadow, the shade of the things and the shadows sort of fall on the bottom left. So I roughly, with this style, you don't have to be perfect. Just anything down the sort of left-hand side and underneath anything goes there. And then I'm going to do the same with... turn reference off, turn off lock off there, and then I'll do clipping mask just for now, just to show you. So clipping mask above that, and now I'm going to select the lightest color for doing. All right, select the lightest color to do some highlights. So it's anything on the top or on the right hand side if the light's coming from the top right. So a little bit over there. We're there across the top there. So I
really like this color palette, mate. I have to say, it's so bright and it's fun. It really goes to the bag. Yeah, exactly.
How dare you be bright and cheery?
we need that in the UK at the minute.
Yeah. And then I select the sort of third color along in there, which is the sort of mid-tones, and then I just do that on the left and the bottom of the parts. Like that, and it just quickly adds a bit of dimension to it. Oh, I didn't realize I'd just forgotten a bit of highlights in the post, so I'll just add that up there. I do. And now what we can do is add a bit of lettering, because that's what we came here for. Okay, so I've selected one called so there's 3 brushes: rock and roller, high five, and sort of broken arrow, which are just like styles on their own. So this is like this gives you sort of like a squarey, a solid, I can't remember the sort of terminology, but it gives me a sort of like a straight block lettering look. So you can I normally use it in sort of capitals. It looks quite good on its own. And then what I do is normally use the broken arrow one, and I zoom in, and just because this brush follows the nib of your thing, so sometimes it sort of like spins out, so you just sort of can smooth it over a little bit. What I like to do, I don't like this sort of sharp lines when you're trying to be loose stuff, so just softening off the edges slightly, just really, it's these sort of little details sort of adds to the look.
It's really it is quite illustrative. It's got a really kind of bold but still super creative style.
Yeah, and this is the sort of stuff I like, and it's taken me ages to realize, I like this. This is the stuff I like, because I sort of taught myself in such a rigid way that I suppose I'm just sort of being a bit less formal with it, I suppose. So that's how quickly to do that flag, and that's included in the user manual, how to draw a flag like that if they interest you. I seem to put one in every single piece, so I need to really maybe choose something else. But so what I'm going to do now, just to save space, just squeeze all those together, and then do the shadow trick, which is duplicate that layer, and then what you can do, fill it, or another way of doing it is clicking on the effects menu, clicking hue, saturation, and brightness layer, and then you can just drop the brightness straight down and it'll turn it black. And then again, click on the N icon, reducing it down, taking it to multiply, and then we can just move it using the move tool. And then we've got a shadow there now. So that's that part done. So, it's just about sort of like, doing a rough layout, and then you can implement these sort of styles. So now we are onto another style using just a singular lettering brush, which is one called High 5. Though it looks more like a High 3 because I suppose it's supposed to look like fingers, I suppose, but to check got the right size. And so with this sort of style, this is another one that I got of example alphabet in with the pack. And so just do sort of singular, slightly really loosey script. You could probably just use your handwriting for this. And just to add a bit more dimension to this, I grab the slipstream brush in a white color, and then I add a bit of reflection to it. So as I said before, it's coming from the top right. So I just sort of add. Okay, so what I'm doing is just, I'm doing really rough. This is probably not in the right place, a lot of it. So just at the bottom and the top of the letters, I'm just doing a line and a dot. Just mainly on the top or right edge, and it just makes it look like it's going a bit old school with maybe like a bit bubble lettering, but it makes it look like it's sort of tube or like a blown up, those sort of balloons that you balloon model with. I'm not being very accurate with them, but it doesn't need to be because the whole lettering is like that. And then I can just add some, and then
it's amazing how simple those are, but just having the dot on the end really gives it that looks like a balloon that's been blown up. It's such simple shapes, but it somehow looks really 3D now.
Yeah, and then what we can do is just, because it's all on one layer, that one, I can just reduce the brightness, get rid of that white, and then I can just turn it into a shadow again, and then we just bring that across. And there we have, so it's just, I suppose, I know I'm doing it very quickly, but it's just like, okay, I've used 3 different brushes, and now I can go on to a different brush, and they seem to sort of work together, which is something that, because they're this sort of looser style, I think when I do a lot of stuff, and I think when you're doing certain styles, it's better if it's limited to just 1 or 2. But when you're doing a more illustrative style, which maybe you see more of, in children's book covers or maybe graffiti-esque, you can get away with those. Not get away with it, but it just looks good when those things sort of work together. All those different styles. So okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just this sort of 2B. In a sort of speech bubble thing. So I'm just going to use the Sloppy Joe one and maybe this orange, and I'm just going to do some random shape and fill it up. And that's that done. Actually, I'll put it above the flag post, and then maybe I'll grab the 3D brush. So what size that is. I
love that brush.
Though, as I mentioned in the user manual, you can't stop and then go over the top of it without having to erase stuff. So this one you have to get used to sort of going over again, so it continues the sort of 3D. And that's the same with the sort of monoline one as well. It's just keep it on the thing. It's getting used to sort of drawing letters in one go or drawing words in one go. But you can, I've given a method of how to do it if you can't do that. So, and then to fill that, we use the same reference model that we used before. Drag and drop. Oh no, I missed. Oh no.
Is there like a stray pixel or something?
There is a stray pixel. It's filling the rest of my letters. So that, yeah. So I'll just fill it manually.
Yeah, that looks so cool with the 3D depth there.
And then we can actually we can create a shadow from that as well to turn off the reference layer. Duplicate that white one, so the fill layer we just made. Actually, we can just click invert. If it's black or white, you can just invert it, and it will go back to white or black, or whatever you're using. And then again, scroll down to where opacity the Y is. So this, I'm going to do this in every single piece of lettering. So by it, hopefully you should know. And then we can just make a simple shadow, just like that, for that one. So that's that done. And now onto sort of the bigger words. So for this, I'm going to use an external product, or not in the pack, which is Letter Builder, just for the letters. Even though they're going to look sort of eroded and stuff like that. Oh.
Yeah, Letter Builder to this day gets so much love from our community. Grid and Letter Builder together, and
I think
Stefan's gonna. Sorry, go ahead, mate.
Yeah, when Missy and Stefan were making it, I don't think we realised. We saw that, how useful Grid Builder was for people, and so making Letter Builder, we thought, will it, going to be helpful to people? We used it for ourselves. I think that gave you a sense of actually this will be helpful, but it's been so loved that we just, that's something that we just like been blown away by, really.
It's amazing. It's changed the lettering world. So hats off to both of you for such an innovative product.
Okay. Let me just do, so letter. So I'm having trouble with the new update to iOS where, you can write in boxes, if you wanted to put 10%, you can write 10% and it will put it in there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't select stuff as well. It thinks I'm trying to write stuff because I sort of maybe don't do it. So
Tila was just showing that in her session.
So I've got my Letter Builder letter, and then I'm going to select. This is going to be one of the letters where I do a bit like with the flag, is that I start with the mono for the outline. So I'm going right to the edge because it's going to write a nice bold B. And actually, it's going to be really thick, so I'm going to make my open parts of the B, the bowls of my B, quite small. And then I can turn Letter Builder off for a bit. And then, so what I'm going to do to make this letter 3D, I need to erase this portion here. To make this letter 3D, I'm going to duplicate it. And with the one below, I'm going to reduce the opacity, move it to where I want the 3D to be. So I'm going to move it over here. And then I'm going to go back to the original layer, the top layer. And then I'm going to connect it and then draw over it. So I'm just bringing that corner, connecting those corners and drawing over it. And drawing. I don't need to worry about the inside because you're not going to see any of those elements.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my 3D editor. It doesn't look like much at the moment. It'll look better in a minute. And then what I do is create a layer below it so I can start to fill it. So click on the B, click reference, go back to my other layer. Actually, before I do that, I want to make my reference layer, I want to make that dark gray. So I've alpha locked it. Then I fill it. So it just fills the monoline bit. Turn it off alpha lock. And then I'm going to fill these areas with gray. And then I'm going to select a lighter grey and just fill the bit of the B there. I'm going to grab the black and the Sloppy Joe one, and I'm going to actually just fill the shadow areas. Turn off reference.
So you're doing like a deeper shadow within the shadow?
Yes. So actually I'm going to combine those together. And I'm just going to, because the bottom will be a bit darker. So make that areas where the shadow may lay. And then I was just going to do a highlight over here.
Where do you get your inspiration for all these lettering styles? Is it just trial and error, or do you see them in print and stuff like that
Pinterest,
and think, oh yeah, I'll try that? Yeah, I bet.
So that's my B. Actually, I might. I'm holding my finger down, which helps bring up the eyedropper tool, and then I'm just going to soften those edges again. So you're trying to sort of get this sort of hand-drawn look with everything I do, and then I've already. So we can do some more time with like question and answer. I've done the other two letters already. So here's my A and D.
Oh, that's so cool.
They're all just done in the same way. I just wanted, it's the same process. I didn't want to. And then again, what I did is merged all those letters together to create one. So I didn't merge them all together. I copied them, made a copy of them, and then merged them all together to make the shadow below, like I did with everything else, like I did with the flag, sort of merged them all together. So now we are on, look, we're nearly there. Only got 3 people there.
I'm guessing, are you going to move that below the orange speech bubble as well?
What's that?
Bad. So you can see the extension of the speech bubble?
I don't know. I might actually... I think it looks weird with the speech bubble going on top, so I might just leave it as a blob.
I'm going to be quiet then. I like it as a blob too.
I could actually make the speech bubble come out this way.
Oh yeah, that's cool. See, thinking outside the box. This reminds me. Do you remember you did a session a while back where you actually, I think, lettered a design cutter's name, and you made it look like stone?
Oh yeah.
And it's like a real authentic stone style going on with that bad. I think it's so cool.
That was with so that's sort of like an illustrative version of the stone. Though I'll do a bit more stony bit on the new as well, because like sometimes I think about I'm not very good at drawing exactly starry like this is rubbish. I do.
It's abstract, Ian.
Abstract, yeah. So I'm going to select black. Go on. See, it's still thinking I'm trying to highlight. There we go.
Yeah, I see what you mean about that new feature.
I'll probably turn it off, but it's quite useful in some areas. So for this, I'm just going to do... I normally keep this really small letters, quite simple. So for this one, I'm just going to actually make it bigger. I'm going to use the broken arrow one and just do some very loose couple of dots there, couple of dots there. Don't know why.
I have to say, I love how you structure your compositions. They're always so visually interesting. I think a lot of people have very flat, kind of perhaps quite boring compositions when they start out. And then as you get more comfortable, you can play more. And you've obviously been doing this for so many years. It's like your play and your love for what you do and the fun really comes out. Your compositions always make me smile.
Oh, good. That's a great response, actually. And you could use letter builder in this. I mean, not letter builder, grid builder, because obviously I'm used to, like, the next word would probably be beneficial from using grid builder to get it all lined up properly. I think it's just because I'm so used to doing it this way. So I'm just going to do something in using the Broken Arrow script brush. So this is one I've been using for ages for, like, doing sort of a bit of formal script and a bit of sort of loose script. It's just got a nice, I didn't have nice. The problem with doing it in one go, now I'll undo it and it's all going to disappear. So now we are going to do the word new. So for this one, it's the same sort of thing. So what I can do is bring up the letter builder grid that I did for the B. Again, I'm going to get the monoline brush of the Sloppy Joe, and I'm going to draw over that.
I like how you're not uber rigid using letter builder. You sometimes go outside the lines.
Yeah, so with this, I'm doing as far as I can on the outside to make it quite thick, because this is like the main word. And that's all I do to start off with, just draw the outline. And then again, like I did with the B, duplicate it, reduce the opacity. Let's just turn off the letter builder grid for it. And then,
you know what I love about letter builder though, Ian? It made me realize how intimidating a blank canvas can be.
Yes.
Because I know you can draw an M, but the speed you can do it using letter builder versus if it's just an entirely blank canvas, you've got no straight line guides, you've got nothing.
No. Yeah, it's quite. If I drew that now without letter builder, it would look really ropey. What happens is it gets you up to speed to do the creative bits, which is the fun bit. So like drawing the basic structure isn't, it's just something you want to get down quickly as possible. And then you can add on the sort of wittiness. So now what we're doing is I'm joining up all the edges of the letter N and drawing over the straight line bits. And you don't have to be accurate with this style, and that's that bit done. I can get rid of that layer and get rid of letter builder from it. And now what I'm going to do is, using the detail brush, I am just going to go smooth off these corners. I just find it's just these tiny little details that really help to make it look sort of less, the word I'm looking for, just more soften it up and
organic.
Hand
drawing.
It seems at the time like, it doesn't really do anything, but when you look at the whole piece, it just sort of softens it, like we're doing with the brave word, just going around a few bits of it. And then I'm going to chop a bit out the side.
That is a cool technique. So you're basically doing more of a right angle on the outside of the stroke, but then the inside of the stroke you're rounding to soften it.
Yes, because you can't. Yeah, when it overlaps or brushes overlap, if it was a pen, it would seep into the previous line. But obviously, technology like this is digital. I suppose there will be a technology where it can just seep into each of the lines, and I'm sure, Adobe Fresco does a bit of that with the sort of watercolor stuff. But it just softens those hard edges. And then what I'm going to do is continue that shadow as well. So I'm giving a bit of shadow there. And then I'll just roughly, this is not accurate, bit of the end falling off. Because the quote's saying, be brave enough to be bad at something new. The new is not going to look very good. It's going to be a bit ropey. So that's why I made it a sort of slightly falling apart.
I like that.
So... and then I'll do another one over here. And that can sort of go off somewhere. I don't know. So that's my black line. That's all just done on one layer. And then what I'm doing is new layer below it, turn on the old reference layer, should be used to that by now. And then selecting my primary color, which is the third one along, drag and drop. That's all the lighter colors. And then I select the sort of mid-tones, which is normally stuff that's on the right-hand side. And then the darker tones, which are for the bottoms.
I feel like this pack lets you work so quickly. Like, I know you work quickly anyway, but the fact is you've got every brush you need for quite a complex and varied composition in just one pack, including all the colors, including the texturing brushes and the lettering brushes, is all under one roof. So you're not kind of jumping back and forth between different packs.
So it's trying to do, you know, so you can just, you know, create within one thing and not get too overwhelmed with like, oh, where do I go now? Because even just going between the Procreate brushes, you know, I go from one to another, and sometimes I get lost. I'm like, which brush was I on?
And you know what? Like, even if all the brushes are great, when you're switching up brush sets between different brush creators, they're inherently going to have different styles.
Yeah,
and they might not always go together. Whereas when everything's designed to actually work together and pair nicely in one pack like this, you don't have to worry about that.
No. So yeah, hopefully it does work like that. So now I'm just going over the left-hand side and the bottom of areas with the sort of mid-tone color.
Oh, I like the little highlights behind those two dots that you've done.
Yeah, so I had them on there as well. It just, all of it just adds to a little bit more. And sometimes I bring in a bit more.
Like Ian, you're, you know, very, very experimental with your style. I know other people that are just like uber perfectionist with every single step and super organized, and it all works. I think it's about finding what works for your personality and your style.
Yeah, definitely. And also it depends on what iPad you have as well. You know, with the going to the layers thing, you know, some you can't have too many layers because you just run out of space and how big your document is. And
yeah,
so yeah, so I'll show you. So I've pre-done the in a double because I know we've quickly running out of time. So get rid of that.
It's okay. So if you're happy to, Ian, we can go a little bit long because I can see we've got a lot of people here really enjoying this.
So I'm just going to show you how to do the shadow on this. So I can just duplicate that set, and then the bottom one, I'm going to click on it and click flatten, which is going to flatten the whole of that down. And then I'm going to bring the brightness down, and then bring the opacity down, and then multiply like we've been doing again. And then I can just move that over. I've got my shadow. And then I can turn off my sketch. And we're nearly there because we're going to add some illustrative elements. But that's the the main part of the layout sort of done. You know, the shadow. Yeah. So now we are going to add. Let's add the dotted line because that seems to feature in everything I do. So it's called flight path because it always ends up with a paper airplane at the end of it. So I normally do this in the bottom, near the bottom, and then I just sort of choose the right color. I normally do it in black or dark gray. Let's do dark gray.
That's so cool.
And then and then get a new layer. Get one called Wingman. I need to turn it around. So I click on the arrow, click on flip horizontally. And I'm going to put it there. Don't worry, it's overlapping because we're going to color it in. So a new layer below it. I'm just going to color it in rather than reference layer. So I get white. Get the sloppy Joe.
I'm enjoying the brush names.
I don't know where I get the ideas for these. I think because I don't want to make them boring names like brush 1, brush 2.
Yeah, too right.
So make a bit of a shadow. And then I'm going to get a darker grey and just literally go, and then we've done a shadow. Just adds a bit of a, shadow under there just to make it pop off the page. And then we can add some stars. I like stars. So I can add some stars, and then we can add some confetti.
This is such a fun pack. I love it.
Let's do that in white. Oh, come on. So we just go hooray, hooray, fills in the area. And then there's a bit in the middle of my sketch was just like a little face.
Yeah, I saw that, like a little alien or something.
Yeah. So gonna get a sloppy J1 new layer, and I'm just gonna. All right, I need to bring bad down. There you go. And I've also included a duo pack of just random eyes and mouths. So if you want, because I'm not very good at drawing them, so I thought if I had a pack that, or I've drawn these ones. So let's pick some eyes, pop those on, and then select a mouth. He's happy that he started this project. There we go, his little smiley thing in the middle there. I think we're finished.
That's amazing. Wow. Ian, I just want to say an enormous thank you, mate. Always deliver the goods. That was a great session.
Oh, I was actually quite nervous because I was like, I want to make sure that people get enough value from this and enough tips and tricks that they can use in their own lettering. And so,
yeah.
Thank you.
I think, Ian, you're the best. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Tom. You too.
All right, I'll catch you next week.
See you soon. See you guys. Thanks for joining.